Hello and welcome to the Empowering Family Caregivers Show. I'm Susan Baida, your host and co-founder of eCareDiary.com. Today is Friday, March 4th, and the topic of our show is about how to best transition your aging parents during a crisis and change. And we have as our guest Dale Carter here with us from Indiana. Thank you for being here and welcome to New York City.
Oh, well, thank you, Susan, for having me.
So Dale is the founder of Transition Aging Parents. This is a business that provides insights and information to adult children of aging parents. She's also the author of the book Transitioning Your Aging Parent, a five-step guide through crisis and change. This is very useful, particularly if you're going through this phase of change with your own loved one. The book focuses on what you call the ADAPT framework that helps in making the right caregiving decisions and strengthening family relationships. She used this during her own crisis with her own mother. She's also the host of Transition Aging Parents, a blog talk radio talk show which takes place twice a month. And you can find out more information about Dale's work at transitionagingparents.com. Dale, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan.
So, Dale, tell us about your personal story with your mother. I know that she was the inspiration for all this great work that you're doing and all the touring you're doing around the country. So tell us about what happened.
Yes, well, back in March of 2008, my mother had a health and life crisis. I had absolutely no information about geriatric health care, senior living options, or even community resources for her. I got a call from out of the blue from a friend of my mother's. My mother was living 600 miles away, and she said, "Your mother's had what we believe is a stroke. She's been taken to the hospital, and we don't know how much longer she has to live." So at that point, I had to decide what to do. With absolutely no background information. My brother was out of town, so I kind of went into a tailspin when I hung up the phone.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a lot of what a lot of families go through. I think they're shocked into a situation like that, and you're kind of the so-called deer in the headlights, right?
Absolutely.
So what motivated you to develop what you call the ADAPT method and included it as part of your book?
Yeah, and it was really based out of my personal journey with my mother, working with my brother to help my mother through her crisis and to get settled in her new life. She eventually moved to a senior living community. As we went through the process, there were a lot of options we had to consider. We had to consider my mother's wishes and her values and her needs. And we got to the end of the transitions, and I realized that I had used a process when I helped my mother through this. And this was a process based on my project management experience, my professional experience. And I realized that a lot of adult children don't know where to start. And there's so much information, there's so many decisions to be made. So I came up with the ADAPT framework that really walks readers and listeners through the process I used.
Yeah, it's so true. I think people are shocked, and then they really don't have a clue as to where to start or even what step to take first or who to even call. So can you share with us, I've read your book. I think it's amazing. I think it's so simple. I mean, your steps are very simple to follow. Can you take our audience through some of the simple steps of this transition process?
Sure. They seem like very simple steps. I've tried to lay it out in a simple way, but I will say there's a lot of work to each step.
Yes.
But I want to share the steps. The first step is not to jump in with a solution. The first step is to assess, and it's a two-part step. Assess your parent, understand their needs, their wishes, and their values, and then assess yourself. A lot of times we don't do that, and we have to assess our capacity, how much we can help our parent and how much we need to reach out to professionals.
Right.
That is the first step, the A part of the ADAPT.
Right. And so can you also include a chapter on resources and share some of those key but overlooked resources? And I would imagine some of them are some of the professionals we have to turn to occasionally, right?
Absolutely. After I go through the A, the DA, and the P and the T, I include a chapter on resources, and I can share like 3 of the top resources with you right now.
That'd be
if you'd
great.
like.
Thank you.
The first resource that is often overlooked, and I say it's the first go-to resource, is your area agency on aging.
Yes.
So many people don't know about it. It is everywhere in the country. It is funded by the federal government. A wonderful resource of advisors, hotlines, resource centers. They can help with any kind of aging issue, and they are a trusted resource. So I say go to them first.
Right, and their website, actually, I think you can type in a zip code and you can find a local area agency on aging right in your area. And I think it's eldercare.gov.
It is. You have to type in www.eldercare.gov. This is a wonderful resource for long-distance caregivers.
Right.
That's how I connected with community resources for my mother's area.
Wonderful.
The second resource that is so often overlooked or underutilized are the VA benefits. Often people may think they have earned the benefit. They call the VA and they find out, oh, you make too much money, and they stop right there. They really need to reach out to a VA accredited professional to help them. So many people qualify and don't know it.
And let me just clarify, VA stands for Veterans Administration, for those of you not aware, and often, sometimes children forget that their parents might have been, in the service, and I know that was the case with John's father, but that could be very well the case, and it's a wonderful administration where, you can oftentimes overlook certain benefits available to families.
Right, and sometimes those benefits can amount to as much as $1,900 a month for a couple. That makes a big difference in quality of life.
Sure. Any more you want to share?
I do want to mention to reach out to the professionals like the geriatric care manager, the elder mediator, the elder attorney. I think families really are so concerned about saving money and conserving, the resources they have. But if they would just reach out, there are so many options they might not be knowledgeable about.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those, Dale. Now, so your ADAPT method actually goes by ADAPT so that we can all remember those steps. Can you share a few others in there?
Yes.
Without giving away too much so that people can actually get the book.
Talked about A is the assess.
Right.
The DA is a very important component. Discuss as a family. I realized with my own brother, we had to learn to come together and work together. It was in the best interest of my mother and of our family. And we faced a crisis, but out of that crisis, our family became so much stronger. Yeah. And so it was learning to work together, and that was wonderful. The P is for plan. I'm a very big proponent of having a family meeting, getting a plan down on paper, having everyone contribute. Everyone has strengths. Come together as a family. Right. And then the T is for transition. Right. And I really do want to point out that even though the transition may be a particular point in time or day in time, the adjustment that follows could be a couple of months or more. Right. So it's really important to set the expectations that this is a time when everyone in the family is having to change and adapt. Yes.
And I want to say that while these steps seem, as I mentioned before, very simple, they actually do require work. And I think on the planning part, I read this book very thoroughly because I'm going through this with my own mother. And the setting up the meeting with the family, I mean, there's a whole process to that as well. You don't just set up a meeting, bring everybody together, and think that, you can easily get resolution or people to agree to do things so easily. There's a process to it, and Dale takes you through all the details of how to set up a meeting and who to bring together and how to distribute responsibilities. So I think this is a wonderful resource for those of you going through this. Tell us now a little bit about the special trip you and your mother took, I think a few months ago.
Yeah. it's really important after the transition, after your parent really is settled in, to do something special with them. About 6 months after my mother settled into her senior living community, I went back and I said, Mom, would you like to get away? Because she had really been housebound for about 9 months,
Right.
even after she moved into her community. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, where would you like to go? And she said, I'd like to go back to where I was born. And I always get a little emotional about this. Where she was born was only a 2-hour drive away. So we went back. It was the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We went back. We stayed at a B&B. We drove around the little island she was born on and went to the places she remembered. And I cannot tell you, she just became just joyful and just so excited and sharing stories about her childhood. And,
Right.
and we stayed up until about 2 a.m. that next morning,
that's
just
wonderful.
talking. And I just thought, we didn't plan it, but it was this wonderful, wonderful trip and sharing of our life stories.
Beautiful. It really is. And I think that made her feel, you know, especially after a move into and she's living in a senior living community.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she chose to stay in her area, in her home, in her hometown of Maryland. I'm in Indiana. But it was very important for her to stay there near her church and her friends and her community.
Right.
But really important to reach back and kind of, reflect on where she had been in her life.
Right.
So I always advise adult children, reach out to your parent and find out
Right.
what special thing would they like to do with
Right.
you.
And what I admire about your relationship and your transitioning of your own mom through her own crisis is that you really listen to her. A lot of children, I think, feel obligated to move their parents to near where they live, and that could really, I think, sometimes psychologically and even physically do more damage to their parent, even though, there's still that distance, that physical distance. So,
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that, our parents may have the same problem, but they have different needs, they have
Right.
different preferences, and we really need to take that into account
absolutely.
when we come up with a solution.
Absolutely. So what do you hope readers take away from your book? I know we only have a minute or two left, so...
Well, I hope that they understand that I offer a process. It's just another tool for adult children of aging parents. It's a place to start. It's a way to engage your siblings or your children to understand, to come together and think about the future. Don't wait until a crisis. This framework can help you as you're planning for the future. And I also think it's important to understand you need to reach out to professionals and build your support network.
Right. Don't take it on all yourself, and don't be isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Dale, for visiting us
You're
here in New
welcome.
York. Good luck on the rest of your trip,
Okay.
and have a great visit.
Okay.
And thank you to our audience for joining us today. Join us next week, where we'll be back meeting yet another wonderful guest on the subject of elder care. Take care.